We've started a new collaboration with Angela Marie Pico.
Mhm.
She's a wonderful piano player. You're going to hear some of her music in some of our segments for sure. And I'd like, Angela, would you tell us a little bit about your background? Start when you were just a wee little kid and come right up to the present.
Sure. Well, I was born into a family that enjoyed music.
Good.
My mom plays the piano and my dad sings. And I just was told that for sure by the age of 3, there was an interest in the piano. And by the age of 4, my mom started me with lessons, and she was my piano teacher initially. So she was really good about using several different methods.
Did you use Hanon? Was it a Hanon scale?
I had some of that.
Those yellow books. I used to play the piano too, and I'd practice for hours on Hanon scales.
So she was very good about, she didn't want only one type for teaching me. And so we had Thompson, we had Sham, we had Hanon, and she wanted something for church. So we had like a hymn player improvisation. And then I think we were able to choose one fun piece.
Okay.
And so it was sort of 4 or 5. And she was very good about requiring, usually from the young age, 45 minutes a day. And then as we got older, it was more like an hour a day.
So you've had, from the very beginning, this kind of regimentation of being used to practicing. Music has been part of your life.
Correct.
Yeah.
Both of my parents are military, and there was a heavy aspect of discipline involved from a very young age. Very regimented, very disciplined. I will say, as a kid, there were moments where I think I have a very fond memory of not getting my piano practicing done. It was required basically 6 days a week. We got 1 day of rest, which would have been Sundays. And I just remember this little girl from down the street. I could not have been more than 8 years old because we moved when I was 9. And I remember her coming to the door, knocking. Can Angela and Sarah play? Sarah's my sister. And my mom said something like, oh, sweetie, Angela can't play right now because she has 2 hours and 45 minutes of practicing to do today. And this little girl was like, what? And I'm pretty sure I was crying on the piano.
Foreign language.
Why do I have so much? And we had a timer on the piano, and it was like, start. I'm like, oh man, it's going to be a long day. But I learned very early on, you make sure you get your piano practicing done every day, or you're going to have 2 hours and 45 minutes of piano practicing to do in one afternoon, and no playing with your friend on the street.
So from age 9?
Right. So we moved back to Oregon at age 9, and then I stayed with my mom until somewhere around the 7th or 8th grade. We realized that I needed some more training, I suppose. And I will say, for me, if we back up to 6th grade, there was a church that we attended that I remember receiving a phone call in the 6th grade from the youth pastor of this church. And he called me and he said, Angela, I have a question to ask you, and I don't want you to say no to it. In fact, he had 3 questions that he didn't want me to say no to. He said, I don't want you to say no to any of them. But I don't remember what the other 2 questions are. I just remember, there were 3. And one of the questions was, would you play the piano for our youth group? And I was in 6th grade. And
What an intro.
I know. And you can't say no. And he said, I would do anything. I would give you songs ahead of time. We would make sure you felt comfortable. But I ended up being the piano player from the 6th through 12th grade. And I think that was a huge avenue of weekly playing where eventually I didn't need the songs given to me ahead of time. And eventually I could change the keys to whatever key we needed it to be in. If the song was too high or too low to sing to, we could just change the key.
So he must have recognized some talent in you, don't you think? I mean, that's almost like an innate feeling he must have had about your playing and skills.
Yeah, I will say growing up, I really channeled playing the piano as a way to get my emotions out. We did grow up where I don't know that I couldn't understand from a young age. I felt really deep emotions, but I wasn't equipped to understand, oh, maybe I have deeper emotions than what I see in others. Or I knew my emotions were deep. I knew I felt extreme highs and extreme lows, but, I didn't know how to channel those.
So you had very deep emotions and you were not able to sort them out early on in your life. Or I asked you about Sarah, whether you were unlike Sarah in the way you expressed your emotions.
Yes, I would say for sure. It appears as if I feel much more strongly, and my sister is much more even keel, and it's reflected even in her. She went to school to be a teacher, and she's really great with math, and she's really great with expectations. But I chose the arts, and a lot of times all of us who follow our passion in the arts, we're deep feelers.
Yes,
we're deep thinkers.
Absolutely.
Creative. For sure. And then what I will say is a gift that my parents gave me. So we did grow up pretty heavily faith-based. And so in some ways that can mean I got this sense of right and wrong early on, what was allowed and what wasn't allowed. And so there were parts of me that didn't even feel I could express the extreme of the emotions I was feeling inside.
So you felt contained a little bit.
And I noticed it from a very young age. And so the gift that I was given is that where I was never contained was on the piano. So my parents allowed me to play at any time of day, no matter how much I wanted, unless, it was bedtime. Bedtime was bedtime. But
it was approved.
It was approved.
Yeah.
And they gave us, all of us, because I started on the piano, but then my next behind me, my sister is 15 months younger, and then we have a brother. All three of us would be allowed to play the piano at any time. And if we were playing, we had a very small, humble home, and the TV was there. But if we were on the piano, the TV was off. There was not a competition between someone who wanted to be on the piano or using the television. It was kind of an understood, if you're on the piano, the TV is off.
You hear that, YouTube fans? Music comes before social media, television, and cell phones. That's a connection that you had with the piano and music. A very strong connection with music. Wonderful.
So now we're in middle school, and I'm playing, every week. And then around the 7th or 8th grade, that was when, I don't know what the discussions were behind the scenes. All I know is that my aunt came to my parents and offered to pay for lessons for me from somebody other than my mom. I kind of hit that point where my mom had taken me as far as she could, and it was time to get something more. And I believe it was somewhere in between 6th and 7th grade. I know that we interviewed several different people, and they let me make the decision, and I chose, Harry Veier. He had come recently from the San Francisco Conservatory of Music. He had been down in that area for a while, and then he came to Portland, Oregon. He had this really small home that just felt quaint. I would walk from the MAX train. Basically, I could walk from my house to the MAX train, catch the MAX train several spots up to the Hollywood District, which is almost to downtown Portland, Oregon. And then I would walk from the MAX train to his house. And I just enjoyed the process of it all. I enjoyed the ability to be able to get on that train, to get to his house. And I would walk up his steps, and it was small and cozy. He had floor-to-ceiling bookshelves of piano music. He had a CD player there to play the CDs to any of the music. Yeah. He had a grand piano, and then a small round table, and then tucked around the back was his kitchen. And he just made it cozy from the moment I walked in. I would walk in, and once I chose him, the pattern was I would walk in, and he would greet me kindly and softly. Hello, how are you? And then essentially, make yourself comfortable. I'll be right back. And then I would hear him making his tea, and he would come in and he would set his tea on the piano, and he would say, okay, what have you been working on this week? And I was one of his first students. And so I know that my aunt was paying for 1 hour, but he gave me 2 to 3 hours free free of charge. I think he was building his base. And
I think he recognized talent too.
And I soaked it up. I soaked it up. And sometimes, I would show up and I would feel depleted. My lessons were on Thursday nights and I would feel depleted. And it felt like, oh, I don't think I have it to the level that he wants me to have it. But he never put me down. He was like, that's okay. What do you think about this? He was extremely philosophical. And then there was a lot of, how do you think this composer, I love Chopin. Chopin is my favorite classical composer to play. And it was, how do you think he might have thought about this section? And he brought so much history to each composer. Like when we would choose a song, it was always, let's look at this composer. And then he would talk to me about it. And sometimes I was so tired. I mean, this must have been from like 6 to 8 p.m.
Okay.
I did catch myself dozing a little. And then when I woke up, I was like, oh, I really want to hear this. I'm trying to stay awake. But I got so much.
So this is more than just your average music lesson, because he was actually going into the composer's mind, helping you get into the mindset of the composer.
Incredibly.
Not just the notes, not just the sheet music.
He was phenomenal at all of it. He was phenomenal at taking small sections, teaching voicing, teaching how he really focused on something called text editions, which is a lot of our editions of music. They are notated not how the original composer notated them.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they can be notated however whoever happens to be producing it wants to do it. And so he really focused on purchasing an text edition and then us learning how that original notation was intended and how should we have phrased this and what was the right fingering to begin with. And it makes a really big difference. And of course, I didn't understand that initially, but as I grew older, I understood it a lot more.
So you've learned a really very precise, specific knowledge of each piece you played or that he taught you to play.
And he had me involved in as many opportunities to play as I could. So competitions, recitals, there was never pressure to do it. But when we would be studying pieces, he'd try to create an avenue of me playing that piece, maybe 3 or 4 different times in different places. Okay. And then he always offered a recital as well. After high school, I do remember senior year being a heavy focus on this particular Chopin ballade. It was about 11 minutes long. I think it was a Chopin ballade in G minor. And I felt really good about it. I had focused an entire year. I had played it in multiple places. And senior year, I went on several college tours. There was this sense early on, 2 things that I've always really loved. I've always loved health and science, and I've always loved music. And so really in high school, I was torn between whether to study something in the health sciences or music. And where I landed was, if I end up with a career in the health sciences, I may never further my music. I might feel compelled to stay in that health science career because, all the continuing education and the need to continue practicing might prevent me from ever actually honing in on developing my skill further.
Yes,
and
I can see that.
There was an extreme passion that I love about music. And I really had this desire to also travel in an ensemble singing group. I can go into that another time, but ultimately my senior year, we started visiting lots of colleges and many of them were faith-based. And I went in for an audition my senior year of high school at this specific university. And, I felt so proud of I know this piece and I know it well.
Can you name the university or you want to keep that private?
So there were several, but the one I ended up choosing, I can't promise you I would choose it today, but I can tell you I ended up going to Pensacola Christian College because I went to several and did an audition, and I could sense from the beginning that this university had a deeper capability of helping me increase. So basically they had a specific teacher I was interested in studying with. Her name was Daisy Jaffe, and she was from Brazil. And I could just tell her technique was excellent. And her husband led the strings department, and his technique was excellent. And they were older, and they were phenomenal, and they were revamping the music. And so basically I was assigned to her from freshman year, which was an honor. A lot of times you didn't get assigned to her until your junior or senior year. And from this audition, I got assigned to her freshman year. So I chose the university for two reasons. One was I thought there would be a chance of getting Daisy Jaffe. Two, their tuition was low enough. And I had been told since I was really in the 8th grade, when you're 18, you're on your own. And that meant I was on my own to pay for college, and that terrified
you did.
me.
You had to work and pay for
I had
college.
to pay for my own college, and I knew that, and it was overwhelming. It was something on my mind all 4 years of high school.
Yes.
So the tuition appealed to me. It's something I thought I could handle, and I wanted the adventure of something different, and I wanted something faith-based. So I ended up at Pensacola Christian College. And I have to tell you, I ended up with Daisy Jaffe, which was an honor. But at my first lesson with her, I played this song I felt so proud of. I had been working. Yes. And she was like, ah! And she hit my hand like this. And I was like, what on earth? I'm in the middle of the piece. And she was trying to tell me, you have too much tension in your hands. And I'm like, this is not what I'm used to. And I left that lesson crying. I did. She didn't see it. I kept it together. I had a 1 hour lesson time slot, but I left and I was crying like I'm terrible. I thought, but you know what? Actually, it was really incredible. It was her style, which is different than I was used to, but she was right. I was holding a lot of tension in my arms, and I did have a long way to go. And she challenged me those 4 years, and I improved a ton, because from the beginning, it was like, I came in, I wouldn't say that I was proud. I try really hard not to be, but I had a lot to learn. And it was her way of saying, we have a lot of work to do. And I don't know, it wasn't my favorite method initially, but I did a lot.
So the connection you had with music early on really helped steady you, it seems like, in college, through some of the trauma, the difference in teaching, different in styles.
Yeah, I would say that by the time I entered college, I had some additional pressures that I didn't know how to work through or feel equipped to process on my own, but I didn't even understand all that wording or lingo then.
Sure.
And that it was something that early on, there is an expectation. I was a music major, and the music major was a piano performance degree with a concentration in classical piano. And I was told early on, the expectation was you should be practicing 3 hours a day. And that would be on top of your full class load and your work schedule. And I was working and putting myself through college on my own. So really, really early in the morning, I would usually get 1 hour of practicing done before the dorms were awake. Like I would get down there as soon as the dorm room.
Was there a music room area in the dormitory?
There wasn't our freshman year. In the freshman year, I had to wait until the arts building was opened. But somewhere sophomore year, I believe it was, they opened a piano practice whole area on the basement level, and I could go down there as soon as we were allowed.
Good.
And I did an hour right away, and then I would find another time to splice in my, but what I started to find, especially by junior, senior year, some of my friends would enjoy coming in those afternoon or evening hour sessions, and they would come in and do their college work just sitting in the practice.
And you would perform for them?
I mean, they were just there, right? I would perform, but I wouldn't be. I'd be practicing what I needed to be practicing.
They liked to be there.
They just wanted to be there.
I suspect they liked to be there.
They'd do their work. I mean, they were just, they'd be working on their stuff, and I'd be doing my stuff. And there's something kind of invigorating about walking into piano practice studios and hearing everybody practicing.
The dynamic of it. So, Angela, I'm very interested to know when you started your YouTube, because the Fred and John Talk started about 3 years ago, and we're really going to enjoy this collaboration with you, showing you to the world. What really prompted you to think of your channel name? How did you come up with the name for your channel?
Well, the channel name I only came up with fairly recently. The actual YouTube channel I just had named Angela Marie Pico, and I started that 8 years ago in 2018. Mm-hmm. Basically, at this point in my life, I was already married with 4 children.
Okay.
I was already working as a dental hygienist, something that I pursued right after my music degree. And so I was already heavily in mom mode, paying bills mode, raising children mode, the stress of life, the stress of making ends meet. And it occurred to me at that time, I would have been in maybe 34-ish, 35-ish, that I didn't have anything. I don't even have a video of all the stuff from college, because during those years, we didn't have phones. Mm-hmm. We didn't have the technology.
Yeah, it was not a thing then.
No, I didn't get my first cell phone until I had graduated with my bachelor's degree. Mm. So I didn't have, from basically all those years, all the way to age 34, I didn't have my stuff preserved.
All your precious musical background.
And actually, I lost the best years, because frankly, the best years were college. You know, that you're never going to be better than when you've done 4 years of 3 hours a day. Like, you're just not going to be better. Now you're raising kids, you're up all night, you're doing your job. And so it hit me, man, I should have a way to just save this. Mm-hmm. So originally in 2018, it was just a challenge to myself. Okay. I just wanted to get back to playing more. I had even gone through several years where I didn't even have a piano. And I felt really lost during those years. Mm-hmm. So 2018, I started my channel, and then life circumstances got real crazy in 2019. And that's when we moved from Northern Virginia out to this area. And I became next door neighbors to Samina and Sohail, and we shared a wall. And, you know, I started really working on my YouTube channel then, and then we had COVID. And COVID was interesting.
Yes, 2020.
I found myself home with 4 children, and now I'm homeschooling 4 children and trying to help mitigate all the changes that are happening. Mm-hmm. And for a while, I kept up with YouTube, but I have to say, for several years there, I kind of dropped by the wayside again. Yeah. And
that's understandable. Yeah. I think we all did.
We all did. And so what I will say is, it was this past year that I really said, you know, gosh, I haven't been pouring into my YouTube channel again. It's time. It's time to do that again. And so this spring, I started trying to weed out some of the other stuff and become a little bit more focused and disciplined again, even in my adult life, where now the kids are getting older. Mm-hmm. And I don't want another decade to go by, and I want to keep working toward my own personal goals. So early this summer, I just said, I think I want my channel name to mean something more. And I just started to explore several different options until I felt in my heart, this is the one. And ultimately, I was led to Emotions of My Heart.
Emotions of My Heart. So, YouTube fans, you're hearing from Angela Marie Pico, Emotions from My Heart. It's a wonderful name.
Thanks.
And it's obvious that it has done you well, because your neighbor, my friend Sohail, was jumping on the fact that you need to meet Angela. You need to watch some of her music. And so I'm not disappointed, I can tell you that.
Aw, thanks. Yeah, it's an honor actually for me to even be asked.
Well, we're going to have a lot of fun collaborating with you. Did you have some other things you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I would say just a heart of mine is I'm a connector at heart. I like connecting with all different backgrounds. Mm-hmm. I love learning about different cultures. I love learning about different religions. I love learning about people, what drives them, and I love conversation. And so ultimately, I also love the fact that music can honestly connect people of all different nationalities, cultures, family types, groups.
Yes.
And we can feel the emotion without even knowing words, without sharing words. That it is a really powerful way of connecting with another. And I guess like I wrote something down, and I would specifically say I would want to create a place where people from every background would feel welcomed into thoughtful conversations. Mm-hmm. And I would desire my channel in general, and I desire this no matter what, and I think most of my friends see this. I would love a place where both faith and science are explored with humility.
Faith and science, okay.
This is something that drives me. So I only plant that seed because, in my private sector, I'm working in the dental field. I love science. I love psychology. I love neuroscience. I love the study of the brain. Mm-hmm. I love seeing how it affects us physically. Mm-hmm. And the connections between the two are, I already shared with you. If the sky was the limit and I had tons of money, I love learning, and I'd go get a master's in either like musical therapy or even psychology. And then I'd go get a PhD in neurophysiology. I love it. I love studying the body, the brain, the mind, mm-hmm. and then also the connecting piece in humility, not coming at it from a proud standpoint, but from a humble heart. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's some of your religious background, to be humble, I think, isn't it?
Yes. And also sometimes in certain faiths, emotion is seen as wrong.
It is, yes. Can be. Yeah.
And it has been damaging to my heart over the years because there have been certain places in which I was told my emotion was too much or my emotion is wrong. And I firmly disagree. And I just think that the way that we are created, we're all different, and that emotion can be really powerful. And I wouldn't even be able to do the things I do on the piano would I not be channeling the emotion that I feel. And so Emotions of My Heart is really designed as a way for me to process, for me to be able to have a way to work through the emotions I'm feeling. But I would also say the past 8 years, I've also used therapy to work through things. So it doesn't negate the importance of using the tools that we have,
sure.
However we need to be using them. But for me, the piano is healing, and the piano is an extension of me, and the piano is an extension of my emotion. And the good news is, at this stage of my life, I have learned the ability to play all the different spectrum of emotions. Whether I feel intense emotions or not, I can usually find a way to play more calmly, more softly. I can channel it. But let me tell you, when I'm feeling intense emotions, it comes out on the piano. I just channel it, and it's very healing for me.
It is. It's got to be.
So yeah, it really is a way for me to just work through whatever I'm doing. And it's a way to challenge myself to stay involved in something that I love, despite needing to also work, pay the bills, and everything else.
Emotions of the Heart. I love it. Emotions of the Heart.